Assalamu alaikum, let's explore this Islamic topic together. Hey, so, you want to know about the symbolism in Islamic architecture? It's fascinating stuff. Honestly, it's not just about pretty buildings. It's a whole other language. A visual representation of faith, history, and culture. Think of it like a giant, incredibly detailed storybook written in stone, brick, and intricate tillwork. Let's start with why it's so significant. In Islam, the act of creation itself is seen as a profound act of worship, a reflection of God's artis. So, building something beautiful, something that reflects God's perfection, becomes a form of devotion. Islamic architecture isn't just about functionality. It's about expressing that deep-seated belief, striving for a level of beauty that mirrors the divine. It's a way of praising God through the act of creation. Think about the early mosques, for example. The very first mosque in Medina, built by Prophet Muhammad himself, was incredibly simple, a humble structure made of mud bricks and palm trunks. But even in its simplicity, it held profound meaning. It was a place of gathering, a center for prayer, a space for community, all reflecting the core values of Islam. This simplicity, this functionality over extravagance, established a foundation that later architectural styles would build upon. But the underlying message of devotion always remained. As Islam spread, so did the scale and complexity of its architecture. But the symbolism didn't change, it just became more elaborate. Take the minaret, for example. That tall, slender tower isn't just decorative. It's a call to prayer, a literal and symbolic connection between the earthly realm and the divine. The muezzin, the person who calls to prayer, stands atop the minaret, his voice carrying the adhan, the call to prayer, across the city, a powerful reminder of faith. The minaret's height itself often symbolizes the striving towards God, reaching towards the heavens. Then there are the domes. These magnificent structures often symbolize the heavens, the dome of the sky. You see them across so many mosques, mausoleums, and other important buildings. They create a sense of awe and wonder, visually representing the grandeur and majesty of God. The intricate geometric patterns and calligraphy that often adorn them add another layer of meaning. Speaking of geometric patterns, those aren't just aesthetically pleasing. They often represent fundamental Islamic concepts. The intricate lattice work, the arabesques, the repetition of shapes, all these reflect the endless nature of God, the intricate beauty of creation, and the unity of being. Think about it, you can have infinitely repeating patterns, yet each is part of the whole. It's a visual metaphor for the infinite nature of God. And then there's the calligraphy. This is absolutely crucial. Calligraphy isn't just about writing, it's considered an art form in itself, a sacred practice. The verses from the Quran, the words of God, are often meticulously inscribed on the walls, ceilings, and other surfaces of Islamic buildings. The artists, the precision, the reverence shown in each carefully formed letter. It's all a testament to the importance of the divine word. It's a visual reminder of God's words and their power. The courtyards within many mosques are equally significant. These peaceful, tranquil spaces offer a place for reflection and contemplation, a sanctuary away from the bustle of daily life. They symbolize the importance of inner peace and the connection to God that one finds through prayer and contemplation. The water features within these courtyards, whether fountains or pools, often carry symbolic meaning too, representing purity and spiritual cleansing. The use of different materials also holds symbolic weight. Certain stones, woods, and tiles might be chosen for their durability, beauty, or even their historical significance, reflecting the values and the available res of the time and place. The overall effect, however, is always one of grandeur, of striving towards perfection, of communicating a powerful message of faith and devotion. Now, the specifics can vary dramatically depending on the region, the historical period, and the specific building. A mosque in Morocco will look very different from one in India or Iran. But the underlying principles, the emphasis on beauty as a form of worship, the symbolic use of geometric patterns and calligraphy, the on creating a space for spiritual connection, remain consistent. Islamic architecture isn't just a collection of buildings. It's a powerful testament to faith, a visual narrative of Islamic history and culture, a constantly evolving expression of devotion to God. It's a story told in stone, brick, and light, a story worth exploring. So, what part of this fascinates you the most? Do you have any other questions? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hey, so, you are interested in the symbolism behind Islamic architecture? That's awesome. It's a fascinating topic, and honestly, you could spend a lifetime exploring it. Let's dive into the very beginnings. The early sparks that ignited this incredible artistic and spiritual expression. Imagine this: the early Islamic Caliphate, a whirlwind of newly conquered territories stretching across North Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. It's a period of immense change, a melting pot of cultures and beliefs. Islam, a relatively new faith, is rapidly expanding, and with it, a need to express its core tenets visually, and that's where architecture steps in. Think of it as a giant, three-dimensional Quran, telling its story in stone, brick, and intricate mosaics. Now, one of the very first things you notice in early Islamic architecture isn't some grand, towering structure, though those would come later. It's a subtle shift, a conscious decision to move away from certain pre-Islamic styles. Before Islam, you had lots of figural representation, sculptures, paintings of people and animals, very common in Roman, Byzantine, and Persian art. But Islam, with its emphasis on the oneness of God, Tawhid, and the prohibition of idolatry, brought a significant change. Depicting living beings in religious art became largely avoided. This isn't about suppressing artistic expression. It's about putting the attention entirely on God. So, what replaced human and animal forms? Geometry, intricate patterns, mesmerizing mosaics, calligraphy, these became the new stars of the show. Think of the Alhambra in Spain, or the mosques of Damascus and Cairo. The sheer artist involved is breathtaking, but it's also deeply symbolic. The repeated geometric patterns, arabesques, stars, and floral motifs, represent the endless, infinite nature of God. Each perfectly symmetrical tile, each carefully placed piece of mosaic, reflects the order and harmony of the universe, a reflection of God's divine plan. And then there's the calligraphy. This isn't just decorative writing, it's a sacred art form. The words of the Quran, the very words of God, are elevated to a work of art themselves. They become central to the design, often adorning the walls, ceilings, and even the minarets. Think about it, you're literally surrounded by the Word of God. The style of calligraphy itself, with its flowing curves and precise lines, is another expression of divine beauty and precision. The use of light and shadow also plays a crucial role. The interplay of light filtering through the intricate mashrabiyah, latticed screens, creates a sense of mystery and awe. These screens, often used in windows and balconies, weren't just for privacy, they also served as a way to control the flow of light and air. symbolizing the balance and harmony between the earthly and spiritual realms. Mosques, for instance, often designed to maximize natural light, making the space feel more sacred and connected to the divine. Early mosques, especially, were relatively simple structures compared to what would come later. They often incorporated elements from existing buildings, adapting and transforming them to suit the new needs of the community. The simple, unadorned rectangular shape of the prayer hall, for example, reflects a sense of humility and on the act of worship itself. The Qibla wall, oriented towards Makkah, the holiest city in Islam, is the most significant feature, pointing directly to the center of the Muslim world, the place of prayer for all. This simple yet powerful is intensely symbolic. Another fascinating aspect is the use of domes and minarets. The dome, initially seen in earlier Roman and Byzantine architecture, was adopted and transformed. It became a visual metaphor for the heavens, a celestial canopy covering the worshippers below. The minarets, tall slender towers, initially used for calling the faithful to prayer, also became iconic symbols of Islam, reaching towards the sky, a visual representation of striving for spiritual elevation. But let's not forget the courtyards. These aren't just empty spaces. They are often beautifully landscaped gardens, oases of peace and tranquility within the bustling city. Water features, fountains, and trees symbolize life, abundance, and the Garden of Eden, a paradise promised to the faithful. The courtyard becomes a place of contemplation, meditation, a transition space between the mundane and the sacred. It's easy to see how all these elements, the geom, calligraphy, light, and space, work together to create an atmosphere of reverence and spiritual connection. Early Islamic architecture, in its simplicity and elegance, laid the groundwork for the magnificent structures that would follow, each detail a testament to the profound faith and artistic genius of its creators. It wasn't just about building structures. It was about building a visual language of faith, a language still being spoken today. It's a legacy that continues to inspire awe and wonder. And I'm happy to delve deeper into any specific element you're curious about. Hey, so, we were talking about Islamic architecture, right? We touched on the early stuff, the really breathtaking mosques of the early Islamic period. But things get way more complex and interesting as we move into the middle chapters, so to speak, roughly from the 10th to the 18th centuries. This is when Islamic civilization really blossomed across vast swathes of the world. And the architecture reflects that incredible dynamism. It's not just about pretty buildings. It's about a whole language of symbolism, deeply rooted in religious beliefs, cultural practices, and even political power plays. Think of it like reading a really intricate, beautiful book, where every arch, every tile, every geometric pattern tells a part of the story. One of the most obvious symbols, and probably the one you think of first, is the dome. Now, the dome isn't uniquely Islamic, but its use in Islamic architecture has a profound significance. It symbolizes the heavens, the celestial vault, a direct connection to God. Think of the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, originally a Byzantine church, later converted into a mosque. That massive dome, even before its conversion, was already imbued with a sense of divine grandeur. In Islamic Qur'an, it amplified that, representing the ultimate divine power and encompassing the community gathered below in prayer. But the dome is just the beginning. Let's talk about minarets, those tall, slender towers. They're not just decorative, they're the voice of the mosque. From their tops, the muezzin calls the faithful to prayer, a literal call to worship, echoing across the city, announcing the time for spiritual reflection. Their height speaks to the aspiration towards the divine, a physical representation of reaching towards God. The different styles of minarets, from the elegant ones in Cairo to the more robust ones in Anatolia, reflect regional variations and artistic sensibilities. But the core symbolism remains constant. Then there are the arches. You see them everywhere, from the graceful pointed arches of Gothic cathedrals to the horseshoe arches characteristic of Moorish architecture in Spain. In Islamic architecture, arches aren't just structural elements, they're symbolic gateways. They represent the transition from the earthly realm to the spiritual, a passage into a sacred space. The different arch styles themselves often held deeper meanings, sometimes reflecting local traditions or even referencing earlier architectural styles, subtly weaving a rich tapes of influences into the design. And don't even get me started on the geometric patterns. These intricate designs, often found in tillwork, calligraphy, and wood carvings, are far more than just decoration. They're a visual representation of the divine unity and perfection. Islamic art traditionally avoids representing living beings in religious cons. So instead, artists utilized complex geometric patterns and arabesques to express an almost mathematical beauty, reflecting the infinite nature of God. Think of it as a visual manifestation of the unseen, a beautiful, tangible expression of the infinite. Each pattern often holds symbolic meaning, often relating to verses from the Quran or significant Islamic concepts. It's a visual puzzle, a kind of sacred that rewards close observation and contemplation. Calligraphy plays a crucial role, too. The written word, especially verses from the Quran, is considered sacred and possesses intrinsic beauty. So, you find incredibly intricate and beautiful calligraphy adorning the walls of mosques. Not just as decoration, but as a powerful, spiritual presence. It's almost like the walls themselves are reciting verses from the Quran. The courtyards, often found in the heart of mosques, also have a deep symbolic meaning. They're not just open spaces. They're a representation of paradise, a tranquil garden reflecting the beauty and serenity of the afterlife. Water features, such as fountains and pools, are often incorporated into these courtyards, symbolizing purity and spiritual cleansing. Think of the Alhambra in Granada. The intricate water systems and lush gardens are not just aesthetic features, but symbolic representations of the divine grace and abundance. Furthermore, the materials themselves hold meaning. The use of specific stones, tiles, or wood, sometimes imported from afar, signified wealth, power, and artistic sophistication, reinforcing the significance of the building as a testament to Islamic culture and faith. The intricate craftsmanship often speaks to the devotion and skill involved, adding another layer of meaning. And lastly, consider the overall layout and spatial organization of these structures. The placement of different elements, the orientation towards Makkah, the hierarchical arrangement of spaces, all these factors contribute to the symbolic narrative. These architectural elements weren't chosen randomly. Each decision was purposeful, contributing to the overall message the building conveyed. It was all carefully orchestrated to create an environment that fosters spiritual reflection, community gathering, and a connection to the divine. So, you see, Islamic architecture isn't just about the aesthetics. It's about a rich tapes of symbolism, a visual language that speaks volumes about the faith, the culture, and the aspirations of the people who built and inhabited these magnificent structures. It's a conversation across centuries, a dialogue between the divine and the human, expressed through breathtaking artists and deeply meaningful design. And that's just the middle chapters. We still have a lot more to explore. Hey, so we've been chatting about Islamic architecture, right? And how incredibly rich the symbolism is woven into every single detail. From the grandest mosque to the tiniest geometric pattern. It's fascinating, isn't it? Thinking about how it all concludes feels a bit odd, actually. It's not like there was a grand finale, a big closing ceremony where they suddenly stopped using symbolism. It's more of a evolution, a continuing conversation across centuries. The thing is, Islamic architecture's symbolism didn't just stop. It transformed. As empire rose and fell. As different schools of thought and artistic styles emerged. The way symbolism manifested changed. Think of it like a river. The river of Islamic architecture keeps flowing. But the landscape it carves through changes. Sometimes it's a raging torrent. Other times a calm stream. But it always carries its essence. Early Islamic architecture. The stuff we see in places like Damascus or Kairouan. Is all about that initial burst of energy after the Prophet Muhammad's passing. It's a time of consolidation. Of creating a distinct Islamic identity. Separate yet drawing inspiration from existing Byzantine and Persian styles. The symbolism here is often quite straightforward, powerful statements of faith. Think of the massive mosques, their sheer size reflecting the grandeur of God. The Qibla wall, always precisely oriented towards Makkah, becomes a powerful visual reminder of the unity of the Muslim world. A shared direction of prayer. A powerful symbol of connection across vast distances. The minaret, originally a simple tower for the call to prayer, evolved into a stunning architectural feature, showcasing the beauty and skill of the artisans while serving as a symbolic beacon, calling the faithful to worship. Then, as the Islamic world expanded, different regional styles emerged. The intricate geometric patterns, for example, those mesmerizing arabesques, weren't just pretty designs. They were a way of representing the infinite nature of God, avoiding the direct representation of living things, which was avoided in many Islamic traditions due to religious beliefs. The complexity of the patterns, the endless repetition and mirrored the endlessness and perfection of the divine. You see, in certain schools of Islamic thought, representing God directly is considered inappropriate. This is why human and animal forms were largely absent from decorative elements. Instead, calligraphic inscriptions of the Quran and other religious beautifully rendered, often took center stage, serving as both a decorative and spiritual element. Each carefully chosen verse is a powerful symbol, a reminder of God's words and His guidance. Moving into later periods, you see even more subtle shifts. The Mughal architecture in India, for example, is a brilliant example of this evolution. You still see the core elements, the domes, the arches, the emphasis on but they are now infused with a unique blend of Persian, Indian, and Islamic styles. The symbolism becomes richer, more layered, incorporating local traditions and beliefs. Imagine the Taj Mahal. It's not just a tomb. It's a breathtaking testament to love, loss, and faith. Its stunning reflects a harmony between the earthly and the divine. Its elegance reflecting the beauty of God's creation. And even as European styles influenced Islamic architecture in some regions, the underlying symbolism persisted. The persistence of the dome, for instance, its symbolic representation of the heavens, remained a constant. Even in more modern interpretations, you find echoes of traditional forms and symbolism. Contemporary mosques might use modern materials and techniques, but they still incorporate features like the minaret, the dome, and the Qibla wall, reflecting the continuing significance of these traditional symbols. So, it's not a conclusion, but a transformation. Islamic architecture's symbolism didn't end. It adapted, evolved, and continues to speak to us today. It's a testament to the enduring power of faith, the ingenuity of Islamic artisans, and the ever-evolving relationship between religious belief and artistic expression. It's a beautiful story, isn't it? A story still unfolding, layer upon layer of meaning and artists, always adding to its rich tapes of history and faith. And that's why it continues to fascinate and inspire, even now. So, what does Islamic architecture's symbolism teach Muslims today? Let's reflect. It's more than just pretty buildings. It's a whole conversation frozen in time, whispering stories across centuries. Think about it, Islamic architecture isn't just about aesthetics. It's a deeply ingrained expression of faith, a visual manifestation of core Islamic beliefs. Imagine stepping into a mosque for the first time. That overwhelming sense of awe and peace, that's partly down to the design. Everything, from the soaring minarets piercing the sky to the intricate geometric patterns adorning the walls, has a purpose, a meaning woven into the very fabric of the structure. One of the most powerful symbols is the asterisk Qibla wall, the wall that always faces the Kaaba in Makkah. This isn't just a convenient design choice. It's a physical representation of the Muslims' constant connection to the center of their faith. Every prayer, every moment spent in that space, is a direct link to the heart of Islam. It's a powerful reminder of unity, of a global community all facing the same direction, united in their worship. Think about how powerful that is. Even today, a visual reminder of belonging to something bigger than yourself. Then there are the asterisk minarets, those slender towers that often dominate the skyline. They're not merely decorative. Historically, they served as a call to prayer, their shape echoing the aspiration towards the divine. The call to prayer, the adhan, echoing from the minaret, announces the time for prayer, reminding the community of their spiritual obligations. It's a tangible representation of the importance of prayer in daily life. Even if you don't hear the adhan directly, the sight of the minaret itself might still evoke a feeling of reverence and spirituality. And the way they reach upwards, that striving towards the heavens, it's a powerful visual metaphor. Wouldn't you say? The asterisk domes *** are another key element. They often symbolize the heavens, the celestial dome above us. Many mosques have large central domes, representing the vastness and majesty of God. This creates a feeling of being enveloped by the divine, a sense of humility and awe. It's like stepping into a space that reminds you of the universe's scale and your place within it. A humbling experience, and especially important in a world that can feel overwhelming. And let's not forget the asterisk geometric patterns. These aren't just random designs. They're incredibly intricate, often repeating motifs like stars, arabesques, and calligraphy. They reflect the Islamic belief in the perfect order and harmony of creation, a belief that God's design is perfect and flawless. The artisans who created these designs weren't just artists. They were mathematicians and devout Muslims expressing their faith through their craft. These patterns represent the infinite, the endless beauty and complexity of God's creation, preventing the depiction of living things while still expressing an immense beauty. It's a fascinating interplay between mathematics, art, and faith. It's like a message of faith, accessible to everyone who takes the time to appreciate it. Now, think about the asterisk courtyards ** found in many mosques. These are spaces for reflection, for community gathering, and for ablutions before prayer. They're often filled with water features, fountains, pools, representing purity and cleansing. This concept of physical and spiritual purification is central to Islamic practice. And the courtyard is a physical manifestation of that. It's not just a practical space. It's a place for preparing yourself spiritually. A transition zone between the everyday world and the sacred space of the mosque. The use of asterisk calligraphy, especially verses from the Quran, is another important aspect. The artists involved, the elegance and precision of the script, elevate the words to an almost sacred status. The calligraphy isn't just decoration. It's a visual reminder of God's words, a constant of inspiration and guidance. It's like the building itself is reciting the Quran, subtly reminding those within its walls of the divine message. All these elements, taken together, create a powerful and unified message. Islamic architecture isn't just about building structures. It's about creating spaces that inspire faith, foster community, and connect people to their spiritual heritage. What it teaches Muslims today is the importance of unity and community. The shared orientation towards the Kaaba. The communal spaces within the mosque. All emphasize the importance of unity and togetherness in faith. Reverence and humility. The grandeur of the structures. The vastness of the domes. All inspire a sense of awe and humility before God. Connection to the divine. Every element, from the minarets to the geometric patterns, serves as a visual reminder of God's presence and the importance of maintaining a spiritual connection. The beauty of creation. The intricate designs and the elegant calligraphy celebrate the beauty and harmony of God's creation. The importance of prayer and devotion. The mosque itself is a space dedicated to prayer and contemplation, reminding Muslims of their spiritual obligations. So, Islamic architecture isn't just a historical legacy. It's a living testament to faith, a continuing conversation between the past and the present. It's of inspiration, a reminder of our shared heritage, and a beautiful expression of a deep and abiding belief. It speaks to us even today, offering guidance and comfort in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. It's a powerful thing, isn't it? Goodbye. May Allah bless us all. That's our discussion for today.